Well, hello everyone. This is Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. And today we're talking about writing our kids. Not always the easiest subject to be able to teach. Writing can be a difficult subject. You know, for me, I taught public school for 6 years, and 3 of those years I had to teach my students how to write a paragraph, how to describe a scene, those kinds of things. And we used a process, but I quickly discovered that that was not necessarily the best process for teaching writing to my own children. I thought I had it down, but then I realized there were a lot better ways to teach writing. So today what I want to do is talk to you about some ways that you can encourage your kids to like writing. Now, if you're joining us, tell us where you're from. I know I've said this question, but it is like rained all day long. So tell us what the weather's like. I work about this far away from the sunroof up there, and so I can hear the rain all day long. So leave a comment, let us know where you're from. I would love to see that. And if you have questions as we go along, please leave a question. So let's dive into how can we encourage our kids to love writing as well. You see, the problem I think is kids don't like to write, and we all know that's true. So I will tell you, studies show the number one reason they don't like to write is they don't know what to write about. So we can solve that problem not by forcing a topic, but by finding maybe a book or a poem or an essay or something that your children are interested in and using that as a base. Now, I will tell you my story. When we first started homeschooling, I took Ashley and Gentry to Houston for a writing workshop for 4 days. I told them about 2 days ahead of time we were going to see Grandma. They were like 9 and 11, something like that. And I said, we're going to go see Grandma, and we're going to spend all week in Houston. And they were like so excited till I said, and for 4 of those days, you get to go to a writing workshop. And they're like, and they just complain. So we did go to that writing workshop every single day. On Friday, we had to drive home through Houston rush hour traffic to get here. Normally the drive is about an hour and a half. Probably took us about 2 hours. And Ashley and Gentry wrote. They sat in the back of the van and wrote the entire time. To me, that is a change in their mindset, a change in their attitude. So the things that went on during that workshop really helped a lot. So what I want to do is tell you that those ideas, those concepts, changed the way that I taught writing. You see, I decided I was going to follow this process. And so that's pretty much what we use, and at different levels, obviously, as the kids got older. And so what I want to do, that is how the process that I used, here, let me take this paper clip off. The process that I use is in our holiday writing lessons. You don't have to get it. I'm just going to use it as an example so that you can see what that process is. So there's 2 things that I think this book does, but you could do it with any topic. Is one, I think when we have our kids write, especially before high school. Maybe in high school they need to be said, yes, you must write about Romans. But let's talk about it. Why not pick something fun to write about? Let's write about Valentine's Day. Let's write about the Super Bowl. There are fun things that you can write about. And does it really matter what the topic is? If you're going to teach your children how to write a 5-paragraph paper, does it matter? So, Casey, here's another story. Hunter, we were studying ancient Rome, and his assignment was to write about a person in whatever, I don't know what we were going through, but his assignment was to write about a person, write a 5-paragraph paper. And I'm thinking, oh, he could write about one of the emperors. Wouldn't that be exciting? And then he could even learn it even better. He'd know more about ancient Rome. So when I shared it with him, you can imagine what he did. He was like, really, Mom? He didn't really do that, but it felt like that. So I did some rethinking about it, and I thought, you know what, we had just bought a book about Derek Jeter, New York Yankees shortstop. You may not know who he is, but he was a big deal, like the best one ever back then. And I said, Hunter, What if you write your paragraph, your 5-paragraph paper on Derek Jeter? Well, his eyes lit up. How exciting. Well, I will tell you this, he did a much better job on his writing and learning how to write a 5-paragraph paper because it was on a topic that he was interested in. Again, you're not teaching them, it's nice to integrate everything, and I did that as much as possible. But if my child did not want to write on that certain topic, it really didn't matter to me. Let's find a topic that they enjoy writing on. So that's what we sort of did. That's what I've done also in this holiday writing lesson. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how it works, and I will tell you, because in here you actually get an intro writing lesson prep. And that is the process that I use. So let me just walk through that prep. I'm going through all my pages. I will tell you that in there we're covering Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Independence Day, Olympics, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Yes, Olympics starts in a week. Super Bowl is like in 2 weeks. Okay, how to use these lessons. Let me just show you some things that we do. So there's some instructions. You'll notice that each lesson has different levels. So what you can do is maybe all your kids are interested, like you're doing a unit on a topic. You could use this process for all your levels. You're just going to expect something different from your high school level than you will the lower kids. So how does it work? Basically, you're going to start and you're going to have, let's just say you're starting this out. You're going to have a paragraph. And you are going to make an outline of what each sentence says, and your child can only use 3 words. The way you start out before you start the outline is you read the paragraph out loud, and then you tell the child, would you please tell that back to me? And they will tell it back to you because it's a lot easier for them to speak what that paragraph is about than to write. So a lot of times we need to have them speaking whatever they're going to write out loud because that makes it easier and that reduces some of the stress for you and some of the stress for them. So 1 paragraph. Then for each sentence, and this is just a sample little outline, and if you're a big outline like we got to have A's and B's and 1s and 2s, you're going to freak out, but it works. So this is 4 sentences. For every sentence in that paragraph, you write 3 words that your child chooses to help remember it. If it's a number, it doesn't count, so they can get a 4th word. So they do that. I'm sorry, you know what? I goofed. They do the outline first. Then they take the outline and they read it, and as they read it, they tell you what the paragraph is all about. You can't have them narrate it first, but I sort of goofed. So what you want them to do is you want them to write this outline and then use this as a guide to say it back out loud to you. Once they say it back out loud to you, there's something going on in their head. And then when it's time to write, they will use some of the sentences that they actually spoke out loud. Now, then the next day what they will do is actually take that outline, and I would have them say it out loud again when you start that lesson, and then write your paragraph using just that outline. Now, I do need to tell you there's a few things you need to be concerned about in this outline. You can use 2 of the words in the sentence, but one of them needs to be different because you want them to write something in their own words. And so that would be something that you could start. When Hunter was doing his 5-paragraph paper, he used an outline form, similar type thing, but we had a format. So we had our introductory, we had our 3 body paragraphs, and our conclusion. So we still did similar things. It was just a lot deeper. So I'm just showing you at the beginning. I think it's important that when you're starting this, you even have your older kids say it out loud. It is so important, and it's so much easier to speak it out loud. Then after that, you are going to have them edit that paragraph for punctuation and grammar, and then you would come back and write their final copy. So it's pretty simple. We'll start with 1 paragraph. Let it be a topic your kids are interested in. Don't do like I wanted them to do ancient Roman emperors, and they're just like, oh. So mine did it on baseball things. They did. Gentry loved Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. She wrote papers on that as well. So let it be something they're interested in. And then when it's all over, you could talk to them. Say, wasn't that easy? and what are your, just find out what they're thinking about. So now let me show you one of our lessons so you can see this. I'm trying to get to it. This is a story. This is the story. We just finished Christmas. This is St. Lucia's story. And so we have basically read the story, use the story to write your 3-paragraph outline. I would say it out loud. From your outline, write a double-spaced 3-paragraph narrative composition. I'm going to show you that in a second. And then they will proofread it. You want to double and triple space it. If your kids can't type, mine would actually, when Hunter was young, he would dictate to me and I would type it out, double or triple space, and then we just print that out and then he uses that to make his corrections. So you do want to, I think typing a rough draft is good. I think it's important with your kids when they're actually writing, they actually write it in their own handwriting. There's just something about slowing down and thinking. You cannot write with your hand as fast as you can on a computer. All right, so what are we going to do with this? If I were teaching this lesson, here's a story of St. Lucia. We read the story and then we use our 3-paragraph outline that we have. This tells the setting and the characters. There's got to be a problem. You know that girl that writes 17 pages? I had one, oldest child, Ashley, and I was like, you got to narrow this down. And there's no problem. It's just boring because there's no problem in it. Well, what we want to do is include the problem, the action, and then how do we solve the problem here. The other thing that as I did teach my kids, we started just basic rewriting, and then I taught them how to improve their writing. I call it stylistic techniques, and I include it in here. And this is level A, elementary. They learn how to add an ly word in every paragraph, and I would give them a list of ly words. B, this is middle school, quality adjectives, because they've already learned all the ly words. And so they have to add some quality adjectives. That means they have to quit saying like good and bad. How do you fix that problem? You just make a list of synonyms in their writing notebook, and then every time they think I'm going to use the word good, they just go back and find a word for it. And then C is dual adjectives. So that means we're going to have 2 adjectives together instead of just one. So those are them. Then they're going to write their paragraph, write their story, and then they are going to edit it and then come up with a final copy. Now, another way that you should, I think, grade your kids' papers is this. It's either an A or it's incomplete. All right, some of y'all are like, you got other people like your husband or mother-in-law, they want to see these grades. It's either an A or incomplete. If they don't finish everything, then you give it back to them to finish. And one thing that I think is important, whether you use holiday writing lessons or not, is you give them a list of what's expected. Here, everyone has to have a title, a name, a date, clearly presented. They need to indent their paragraphs, complete sentences, capital, punctuation. They need to underline their dress-ups, which are like your ly words. Level A, they need an ly word in each paragraph. B, they need an ly word and a quality adjective. Oh, this is in C. I didn't do that right. They need an ly word, a quality adjective, and a dual adjective. If they can check all of this off, they have made an A. Now, there may still be problems with it, but they have done what you asked them to do. And so if there's a problem with their grammar or their spelling or whatever, then you teach it in next week's lesson. And you deal with it then because they did what they were expected to do. Now, I've got 2 things I want to say about this. First of all, you're probably going, where did you learn all this? Let me just tell you. The workshop that my kids went to was put on by Andrew Pudewa. He doesn't do these live workshops anymore. He's just got too much going on. He does have videos that you can use. If you go to IEW.com/CarrieBeck, you will see some of my favorite resources. But IEW was the resource that we used to teach our kids writing, and we advanced to like essays and research papers as we went along. The other thing I do want to tell you, I love this stuff, and the things that I've included in here are all things that I learned from Andrew and his Institute for Excellence in Writing, IEW. So IEW.com/carryback. The other thing I do want to tell you is if this is something that is interesting to you and you think it would be something helpful, you can actually get it free right now. If you invest in Raising Leaders, Not Followers, at either level, this independent study or the VIP, you can get our bundle. It includes the book with all the lessons. It includes a video on how to get started. In other words, teaching you how to use these lessons, and goes a little more in depth in that. And then it has my master class that I really haven't given in years. How do I teach writing? And so you'll get those 2 extra videos as well. So that would be something. If you are interested in getting Raising Leaders and getting this free with it, you can go to howtohomeschoolmychild.com/leaders, plural leaders. So I should have been looking to see if anyone had any questions. Hello, Michelle from Longmont, Colorado. Beautiful, warm before the snowstorm. Yeah, you know what? Last year at this time we had snow. And then a month from now, we had, as they call it, Snowmageddon here in Texas. That was when it went down. It wasn't cold for you, but it was cold here. And the thing I've discovered, like we lived in Idaho, we visited, we go skiing in Colorado. The difference is there's so much humidity here that it can be 20 degrees, but it feels like it's like 2 degrees, or it can be 32 and it feels like it's 20. But when you're up in Idaho where we lived, oh my gosh, you know, it didn't ever feel that cold because it was dry. So those are just a few ideas that I wanted to share about how to encourage your kids to like writing. The holiday writing lessons is a resource that you could use. It is based on IEW, so you can get this for free when you go to howtohomeschoolmychild.com/leaders and you invest in Raising Leaders. You can also learn more about the process, then go deeper if you go to IEW.com/carryback. I was trying to think what they set me up for. They set me up a special page. It is my page. If you go there, I would say thank you for going, because I would get a small sales commission from anything that you buy from IEW when you use that link. So I don't see any questions. I thank y'all for spending time with me. I am Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. I will talk to y'all later.